Hi everyone, my name is Gina Hernandez. I'm a foreign languages student at the University of Pamplona, and today I'm going to talk about error analysis, which is a branch of applied linguistics that emerged in the 60s. So I'm going to analyze two different corpuses with a grid, and then I'm going to show you how to do it. This is the first corpus I analyzed. I'm going to read it and then I'm going to show you the errors one by one in the grid that I told you about. I'm going to point out one error of each typology. The first error is orthographic. Why? Because the Simpson is a proper name and the first letter must be capitalized. But in this corpus, there are many other spelling errors. For example, the lack of periods to separate an idea, or the lack of commas to list, etc. Why is it error and not mistake? It is an error because the writer repeats it several times. It is an intralingual error because he thinks he is writing well without capital letters. He ignores the rule that proper names are written with capital letters, and that's an ignorance of the rule restriction. And my recommendation is to study the spelling rules. Now, in the first sentence of line 3, I'm going to show you three different typologies: morphological, syntactic, and lexical. So the first one, morphological syntactic, because the verb start is missing the S, and this morpheme gives me information about the third person, but since it doesn't have the S, it affects the subject and therefore the complete sentence. Second, syntactic, because the verb start comes with the preposition at, and the student puts the preposition in, which affects the construction of the sentence. And the third one is lexical, because the student get confused. You don't say primary school, you say elementary school. So in the next space, it is a mistake because in the corpus, the student adds the S of the verb in the third person of singular. Yeah. The second one, the preposition, and the third one, the word primary, are errors because because the writer always made the same error several times. So next space, source of error. The first one is interlingual because there is a mother tongue interference. The second one is intralingual and the third one too, because there is a false concept hypothesized. So it is because in Spanish you say empezar en, so the writer get confused and said start in, such as in Spanish, such as translating. And the same with the third error, the word primary. So as in Spanish you say primaria, escuela primaria, he or she thought that it could be the same in English, but it's not. And finally, in the remediation, I suggest to practice simple present, review how to use prepositions, and look for vocabulary related to education. Well, there is the image of all the errors already classified so that you can see them carefully, and now we will move onto the second corpus. In line 2, the error identification. For this, vendor, error correction. For this reason, so there is an omission, and vendor because it's a repetition of there is an addition of information that we don't need. So the first one is an error, the second one is a mistake, maybe for the lack of attention, and the first one is a pragmatic error because it is missing information and it affects the structure of the text, the complete structure of the text. And the second one, well, it's a lexical mistake because because the writer may be get confused. The first one is interlingual because writer doesn't realize his error. There is an interference because for this, en español decimos por esto, so he thought that it could be the same in English, but not. And the second one is the source of error is interlingual and addition because bender is addition about the information that we don't know, we don't need. And my remediation is try to revise what you write to correct errors. So a writer has to edit and has to edit and revise what he's writing. Well, I think error analysis is advantageous for both learner and teacher because the more errors you make, the more you learn. And I think through making errors and hearing the correct forms from the teacher help the learners to develop their skills. So thank you for listening. Bye bye.